Hey, greetings everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode we read, well, it was pretty lengthy, kind of a bit of a banger of a chapter in War of the Scaleborn. It was the battle underway. We saw Virnoth almost get beaten, caught by Neltharion, as this war is really picking up to a fever pitch. It's pretty cool, so if you're interested in seeing the original war that went down that led to the events in Dragonflight, I suggest tuning in. That's a pretty good book. We've also been playing through World of Warcraft Classic for quite some time now, and we've been doing Stranglethorn Vale North as the Horde. So stay a while and listen as we jump back in with Talanji. She's been ping-ponging it back and forth with Farinal the Warlock, and they are woefully out of depth. So there is a lot of... there's just a lot of pain. A lot of struggle that's unnecessary. We've done the first couple layers of the Panther and Tiger mastery, and then off camera I basically have to do like 1 to 2 quests, then grind a level, 1 to 2, grind a level, because that's all I can really handle. I did grind out her to 29, and this is gonna be the last one we do. After we do this episode off camera, I will grind her and Farinal up to level 30. And then I slowly, as we do Maleficent, so you guys won't have to wait for that, before we start a run of dungeons where we bust out Nomergon and the Scarlet Monastery, Graveyard, and library portions, and Razorfen Downs, I think, the lower level of the two. And we'll do it on both, so it's going to shape up to be 8 episodes, and then probably a before and after quest run for each, though those might be a pinch shorter. And we'll do it for Alliance and Horde. So, for instance, for Nomergon, that will be 3. Each one will be 3. So it'll be about 18 total episodes that we devote to running through those 3 dungeons and the 4 dungeons, kind of, and the quests that go with them. I'll be using that extended time to run everyone through. So I'll be doing a grand total of 9 characters running 3 dungeons each, because you can combine those 2 together. So 27 dungeon runs that I frame in 18 episodes. So it will give us some time. It'll require me to do a lot of behind the scenes, off camera work, especially with Nomergon. That is a lengthy dungeon that doesn't always get it all done, and we're just going to do our best. Now, the only ones we can probably handle this time are the Raptor Mastery, because at 4 levels above, we can handle things that are 4 levels above. So if I find some 33 raptors, which are over in this range, and we can. She's going to stealth her way over there at uber slow speed. So we're going to try and pull this off. She's got to kill 10. I don't think those Stranglethorn Vale pages probably drop until you're at least level 30. Now, don't fret, because... I can't remember if it was her or if it was Farinal. I looked this up almost every stinking time. It's her. So Talanji will pick back up when she comes back from these dungeons. So my hope is that she'll be around level 30. Well, she's actually going to do one other zone in between. So after finishing the dungeons, my hope is she'll be at least around level 33. And then she'll be going into the Arathi Highlands. Now that has some higher level quests as well, but there are some lower level ones. If we kind of look at it already right around here, there's a few. Well, those are, 34 is the lowest one. Yikes. So hopefully she can pick it up. I do know they kind of stretch out into 40. We just might be a little screwed. There might not be a lot that we can do. Now I can pick up some of these and also blend it with Alterac Mountains to help us, because we didn't do any of those. We're not going to. So if I combine those two zones together for her, that might help her level it up just a pinch. Well, Varrock is doing the Alterac Mountain, so I lied. I'm incorrect. I'm not. It's not like I'm misleading you. So never mind. He'll do that stuff. Next. Yeah, it's just tricky. I hope these dungeons will help us. And I just might have some leveling up to do. That's all. And I might do leveling up runs where I do it off camera. See, that's a level 35. That just goes to show you how woefully stinking underprepared we are. So I don't want 34s. We are going to exclusively try to find 33s. I did have Cuzzy in the comments at one point say it does seem like Farinell is more powerful than her, and that kind of inspired me to do a class-by-class ranking of how easy is it to solo level via quests. And the factors, we might as well talk as we just kill raptors. But first, before we get into that conversation, let's see if I can actually kill a raptor without losing my mind here. So I did gain a skill, which just gave me a little bit more time on the whatever they call that, gouge. So it looks like it's going pretty poorly to start. Oh my gosh.
I cannot do that yet.
So I am. This does not look good. I'm a little scared here. I'm a little teapot, short and step. We're not going to be able to do it. Not this. So I don't know if we're just not going to be able to do it, because that thing kicked my butt. It wasn't even close. I'll give it one more attempt, and if we fail, this level will instead turn into a grind. We'll just ride it out together as we grind. And I'll get as close to level 30 as I can with her. But that went pretty stinking poorly. I will be able to, as on her next 5 levels, be working with precision. That's actually going to do a good impact on her. So we will try this Stranglethorn Raptor one more time. Now, we are a little bit weaker because I just leveled up, so my weapon skills and defense skills aren't quite there yet. Now, if I hit it with a cheap shot instead, it stuns for 4 seconds, gives you 2 combo points. The benefit of that is you can immediately transition it into a backstab. So your combo points can be right there, but I don't know what's better overall for damage. I kind of like the ambush better, but
it is too far away.
Okay, so again, we're going to try this. This time I don't have any of the perks or whatever. I don't have my evasion. I don't have any of that. So we're just going to see what happens. Yeah, I'm getting good, and that's the other thing that's scary. I'm getting good luck with my. Yeah, look at that. It's not even close. Okay, I'm getting good luck. I'm hitting with my thing every time. And it's just not even close. Yeah, and I can't. It's gonna kill me. So, I don't know why, but it's probably because I've gained no gear and no particularly potent skills, but it's not happening. So, I mean, my dagger level did just raise up 1 point, but it just doesn't matter. All it does is really impact your chance to hit. So, we are not there. I don't know why, and maybe Farinell could handle this, but she can't even kill one. Unfortunate. I do have some things. I guess I didn't sell those last time, but no biggie. Down to 1 flash powder. So we're just going to spend an episode grinding, and this will be, you know, just so that we can have some time together and so that I can put in this 5th episode with you. I'm already here. We're already recording. So we'll just kind of talk and see how it's going to unfold. spend some time talking about life, talking about the projects that I have going on behind the scenes, talk about what's coming up. As basically, this is what I did last night. I just took her. I spent probably about an hour of my life, and I just leveled her up. I finished that Panther quest, and she still had half a level to go. We probably, in an hour, I don't know that we can grind through a whole level. It's quite a bit of time. If all you do is grind mobs, it is quite a bit of time. Now, she does have enough gold. When I level, I'll be fine. But yeah, that's just a cry and a shame. Now, unless somebody wanted to team up with me, I'd get less XP. Geeky Mimi. But yeah, I suck. We could get the points for killing, but... So here we go, we're just going to drop back into seeing how good we can do in 32s now, so I'm not going to go above 32. But I think I can be a little bit braver with my 32s. Okay, so that one...
I am out.
He busted me. And that's okay.
I do not.
So 32 would have caused me more damage before. So we're going to see, do we at least gain some kind of edge fighting at 32 now? I missed. I hate it when I miss with my backstab. So we're going to go ahead and get that going. God, I'm going to wait. It's going to be tight. And I don't mean that in a good way. It's going to be like a very close... Oh, I died again. I died on the 32. So I can't even screw around and be... Oh, gosh. This sucks. I can't even take one out. Not even some 3 levels above me. But this is not a game that, like, Classic is designed to be played like this. You shouldn't be going... unless you're totally geared, you shouldn't be going out doing into zones where you're even trying to do what we're trying to do, which is fight mobs, you know, 3, 4, 5 levels higher than you are. Just shouldn't be. Like, this is a level 17 dagger. That's a level 15 dagger. So obviously we're not geared. What do we have? I built this helmet, doesn't have a level really. 22 shoulders, doesn't have a level. No level, that means they're quest things. But bam. Do we have anything? Level 15 pants. And then she doesn't have trinkets or a necklace. So, nothing is even in the ballpark of being good gear. Now, there's a good chance that changes also as we run dungeons. Boof. Alright. So we've spent over 10 minutes and we've made 0. All we've done is cost ourselves money. We've wasted vanishes, we've wasted poisons, and we've died twice, so the gold that will come along with that. This time I'm going to wait till I'm at full life before I attack this 32. And I'm going to make my way over to this area right here, because that's where the level 30 and 31 panthers are. I'm just going to fight those guys, panthers and tigers. Clearly I need to wait until I'm... He can kind of see me. 32. So I gotta be careful, because I don't want to have that guy aggro back onto me when he's running back away from the... Yeah, he's on his way back right now. They're normally pretty good, but sometimes you never know. They could stop and start fighting you. Okay, I'm gonna go for the cheap shot. Okay, see, cheap shot. Oops. Come on. That was dumb. I couldn't... Okay. That was a little bit okay. Could probably, I'm trying to, like, gauge where I dump. Really, it's almost not worth using the Sinister Strike. Ever. I'm gonna use this just to be safe. But But yeah, it's just not worth using it. He blocked it. Unless you get into that kind of situation where...
Not enough energy. I do not have enough energy.
Yeah, that was close. So I don't even want to fight daggers. Is 42. I don't even want to fight 32s. I don't know what the heck's wrong with this girl, but she can't even handle 32s, really. So that's lame. This is like the flight corridor. So we will go and fight weaker things even than that. We'll go back over in there and fight those 30s and 31s. Which, that's fine. Whatever. That's grinding 101, but oh my gosh. I don't even want to waste like a sprint. I just want to get there. I can't. She's not high enough to get iron yet. She just flat out shouldn't be in this zone. But other than going back and either grinding dungeons, grinding mobs, or rehashing gear, I just don't know what to do. Grinding zones that I already completed, or dungeons. That's probably the most common leveling route, is to just do dungeons.
I need to get
It just takes so long. Okay, so
not enough energy.
So we're in a little bit of a better situation. Obviously, this is a level 30. Wait, it's still considered a yellow. I mean, and it is yellow. It's 2 levels above us. But as you can see, a much better kill. And we still get almost 400 XP for it. So it's not worth the whatever, the couple other XP. 31, we can still handle that. Her gear is just low. She needs to get that up as well. So we have things, but see that it's so much more forgiving under what can you do with what can they detect. So yeah, so you guys are just gonna get to see the beginning story of my grind here. And I'm not super duper worried, even though we do have quite a bit of grinding to do, because, like I said, I have all this time to do it, and Maleficent has a whole zone to do that she'll actually be able to do the real zone, and she's not splitting it with anyone. So I'll have a whole zone where I don't have anything off-camera work to do, so I can catch her and Farinel up. And then the hope is when we come back and do some of this stuff, that will be all right. So after we do Maleficent, we will be about 40% of the way through the game. So we're getting there. We have one more zone to do before I would consider us halfway. Level-wise, we are right there. We're at the halfway point of the game. Because there's 60 levels, 60 divided by 2, that gives us 30. So we are right there. We just need to catch up with zones. That's kind of how it goes. It's definitely a little bit like bottom heavy when it comes to leveling, because it's easier to level in the beginning of the game than the end. That's just how that goes. But geez, this is just very painful on my soul. It makes me be so tempted so many times to just be like, screw it, let's just start the project. Because we're redoing all these quests to do Lore Master in Wrath Classic anyway. There is no Burning Crusade Classic, but I don't want to. There's so many subtle changes, but mostly in skill trees, in the fact that we won't max out at 60. These zones will, but we will still keep gaining XP. So as we get towards the end, we can be pushing up and slowly gaining XP and be level 70 or something before we finish messing around with classic quests. There's new professions. There's just all kinds of new stuff. So It's not going to be the same kind of organic experience, and I'm not a quitter. As you've seen, you know, we're in our 3rd year in the show. Oh, I need to add more poison on. I am not a quitter, so we're gonna one way or another, we're gonna get this through, even though some parts are gonna be challenging. When we're doing knacks at the end of the game, and the other raids, when we are looking for parties to kill Onyxia's dragons, and, you know, all kinds of stuff like that, it's gonna be unpleasant. So, we are 1 bar in. Slowly but surely. I feel like my, this got moved. I did have to update LVUI today, and while that typically doesn't mess with this because I don't have it turned on, I was a few patches behind, and it was causing some critical errors. So I had, yeah, so first let's talk about the little mental project I did. So, and you guys can tell me if you agree, disagree, if I'm crazy. But I kind of did my own. If you ever look up on Icy Veins, especially if you're looking into mythics and raids, they really love to make these almost like Japanese fighting game style ranking systems where they call, you know, they'll give every spec and they'll say it's like S rank or A rank, B rank. Other than S, it's like a school grading system. Although I don't really think you see F rank. Maybe there's an E rank instead every now and then, but they don't usually go to F. Daggers is 143. But I decided I wanted to do the same thing to think about. So what would make the leveling experience smooth? Well, I would say the number one factor for smoothness of leveling is, can you heal yourself? Seems silly, but it's absolutely true. The ability to heal mitigates your time to rejuvenate in between battles. And it also effectively increases your staying power and the mobs that you can kill quite a bit. So, if you can still do a modicum of damage and heal yourself, it's a game changer. It puts you in a whole other class. Okay, the next thing that I would say comes into play is the hardiness of your character. So your heart, that says, what can you withstand? So, for instance, just as a preview, a warrior is while it has no healing whatsoever, and no utility whatsoever, the fact that he is the hardiest character in the game ameliorates some of the lack of soloing potential he might otherwise have. So those things are taken into factor. And then the wild card is, what kind of utility do you have? So utility, while it seems kind of like a catch-all, I forgot I had my poison. Kind of seems like a weird potpourri category. There's just some aspects of it that are so useful that they really do change the way that you play the game, and it therefore bumps a character up a rank. So there are 9 character classes, and for the sake of classic, the spec doesn't really matter. So your spec when you are a rogue, for instance, if you're combat, subtlety, or what's the other one? Assassination, it doesn't really change your solo leveling experience significantly. Same thing if you're a priest, like, sure, you've got a holy priest, but the pros and cons of being a holy priest as opposed to, say, a discipline or a shadow priest are so small in the solo leveling experience. Like, sure, holy priest is better at healing. That's what they do. But they do lower DPS, so those kind of things, when you are a one-man show, kind of sort of balance out. So I didn't feel like there was anything that shifted, that necessitated me specifying the ranks, but we can talk about them as we go through. So, what we should do is go through, and we'll kind of do the same process I did, where I like to start whenever I'm doing these internal rankings. I like to start by beginning with the armor type of the class, and then working with everything in that armor type, because it really, the game naturally, especially in Classic, kind of gravitates in that mold. There are 2 eventual plate wear, male to plate pathways. Oh, she doesn't, she has to stick dagger, but that'll give her some gold at least. Then there are 2 leather that can eventually become male. There are 2 leather that stay leather forever. See how they're kind of chunked, and then there are 3 cloth at the bottom. So that means we have to first consider paladin and warrior. Then the second category would be shaman and hunter. The third category is rogue and druid. And the fourth category would be the priest, warlock, and mage. So let's look at the pros and cons of everything, and then we will rank them. So we'll start with paladin. Paladin, the pro is that they are very hardy by, the fact that they're in the plate category. They're a super hardy class. They're plate, they wear shields. So that's a positive. They also have healing. That is an extreme positive. Utility, they have, the only thing, and this is what I consider as part of the miscellaneous category, they can bubble. The ability to bubble is huge in the solo game because it allows you to, 1, flee. 2, it allows you to pull off heals in situations where other people might not be able to pull off those same heals. You also look at buffs. Now, they don't have a lot of buffs that are particularly noteworthy for the solo game. All of their blessings are tied in. I mean, they have the blessings. They also have the passive... Dang it. This is going to be tough right here. I don't want to bust my last... I'm not going to use my last Vanish Powder. If I can at all help it. This is going to be tough, but I might... Oh, man. I was... I lost the battle. I played a game of chicken and I lost. Yeah, we're only into the 3rd bar now, so this is the slow grind. So yeah, they have good healing though overall. Now the buffs. The other thing is they have the versatility, and this kind of goes in the miscellaneous factor, that they can use different blessings and buffs to make themselves solid DPS, healers, or tanks. Very few classes can do that. And it lends yourself to a level of versatility that is very attractive for soloing and for group content. So they are also respectable at the DPS. They're not mind-blowing, and they're very good at healing, and they are respectable tanks. So all to all, that's the cons are very few. They don't have a lot of mana regeneration options. They have a little bit with the blessings. And they are not mind-blowing on the DPS. So those two things, and then their utility, other than the small things we've mentioned, their overall utility is quite low. So that's their cons. but they're pretty minimal, and so as you can probably predict, they rank pretty high in our rankings, which we'll get to at the end. Our other plate-wearing class would be Warrior. Okay, so Warrior is the toughest, most survivable class in the game, so that's a huge con. Their DPS, when spec'd, is the best, is one of the best in the game. Conversely, when spec'd, their tanking potential is the best in the game. So they can alternate between those two, although when a solo experience, you wouldn't do that, and as a solo, the benefit of tanking is far outstripped by the benefit of Arms Warrior. So we would assume, unlike our show, that we would go Arms Warrior with it, or Fury Warrior, either one of the two. Probably Arms is a little bit better for soloing because you can more seamlessly tank or off-tank. Just by slapping Sunders on, or even slipping into defensive mode if you had to. So that's pretty much it. They're basically one of the best at what they do, particularly with tanking. They're uber tough. Now, other than that, they have a slight damage buff in the form of their battle shout and a demoralizing buff that helps their tanking. So they have these short-term buffs that basically just accentuate their curves. what they already do well. They have absolutely no other utility, movement, buffs, long-term buffs, healing at all. So they're really hampered. They are good members of a party, but in the soloing experience, they can be quite challenging. And as you see with Varrock, they can be quite challenging due to the lack of self-sustainability. And while he can do good as a tank, his overall tanking experience is really brought down because his damage is so low. So between those two, you should be able to tell that Paladin is pretty much outstripping the Priest. Now Paladin, I would say, despite all his great things, he's held back in addition to not being the best at tanking or damage, although he's solid. He's also held back by his mana a little bit, especially when soloing. All right. So, but he has some utilities. Now we'll look at the leathers, and we're going to separate them into leathers that can become male and ones that can't. So with the ones that can become male, we'll start with Shaman. Okay, Shaman are arguably can become the best healers in the game. Depending on the scenario and the type of spec. So they're very good at that. Between their mail and their shield, they're pretty darn tanky. You know, they're kind of like a meme tank to some people, but I like them as a tank. I've got no complaints. And I wish the game wasn't so meta, because I think tanking as a shaman is very fun. But sure, they're a poor tank, but they could still do it. And then, of course, their DPS is also solid. Not the best in the game, but it's very solid. And their ability to increase that DPS through the Wind Fury totem as the whole team, is through the charts. That's just probably the single best buff in the game. Their totem abilities are just so good, both in a party and in the ability of the totem to create, like, you can create a stand and really change the game. You can solo things that almost nobody else can solo because of, you know, the extra DPS from the fire and the extra either damage or toughness from your earth totems, and the either extra damage and defense from the wind totems. And if If you decide to go defense, then you continue to buff your weapons with the wind totems, the extra healing or mana that comes from the water totems. They also have some pretty neat utility in the terms of the astral recall. That's a pretty interesting one. Farsight, they have a couple interesting little ones. And then their movement in the Ghost Wolf is extremely useful, especially early on. So they have some mobility, they have the healing. Now, their number one flaw is they really are thirsty. They're tied into their ability to do mana, and the mana downtime can be a beast. So I think that might hamper their overall ability to hit like number one class overall, because they are so dependent on that. They're pretty dang good. Okay, so the other one would be Hunter, the next one down, number 4. All right, pros for the Hunter. Main pro is the pet. The pet can serve as a sort of an off tank, so they have some light tanking ability that allows them to take things that other classes can't. They have very little healing, but not none, because they can heal their pet, and when you're healing your pet, that counts. And they can revive their pet and also resummon, blah, blah, blah. So that allows them to count as having some healing. Now, their utility with their buffs is minimal. They have some movement utility with the aspect of the cheetah and pack. Maybe pack is not that on this one, but aspect of the cheetah. And then their DPS, if they wanted to go pure DPS, if they're not pulling threat, is probably the highest DPS in the game, in my opinion. The spikes that they can get, I mean, the numbers might not back that up, but the spikes that you can see if you're not worried about threat are just redonkulous. They're fairly dependent on mana, but if you're just balancing that out and not just going like balls to the wall with your DPS, it's still pretty solid. They're also the kings of the kite. And the Feign Death, once you unlock Feign Death, is a nice little perk. It's a nice get out of jail free, similar to our Vanish, but without the requirement of a reagent. So they're all around solid. However, they lack the self-healing, and they are mana dependent to some degree. Another thing that hurts them, while they don't have that Vanish requirement, the ability to really level your pet, train your pet, keep your pet happy, feed your pet. The maintenance system of the pet, while cool from an RP perspective, does drag them down a lot when you're in that long grind leveling experience, as we've seen on this show. Alright, so now that brings us to the leather ones. Well, we're looking at the rogue right here, so let's talk about the rogue. So the rogue, pros, it's hard to argue with the rogue's DPS. Now, we're not seeing it because we're dealing with threat, so we're not able to backstab and attack from behind the way that you would in a party. And we're fighting things higher level. So within a party, the rogue may just be the largest single target damage dealer in the game. I don't think there's any great competition. So, and overall DPS just quite solid. And the fact that it can be balanced and mitigated with very little else going on, pretty good. We're taking, now remember, this is through the lens of solo leveling, or just leveling. So we're fully taking PvP out of the equation. I don't care how good they are at PvP in Classic or not. Now, stealth is a good perk. So their utility, I'd say the stealth utility is one of the best utilities in the game. It allows you to be very precise and cut through the noise of the crap that you might otherwise have to fight. It's not the best utility because the ability to heal trumps it, in my opinion. And the self-sustainability that some of the other utilities have is an arguable trumping ability. But if your goal is to quickly and efficiently complete quests, and sometimes that is your goal as a solo person, hard to argue with the rogue. It's going to get a slight little bonus point because I love the rogue's mechanics and the way that it's played. Rogue is my favorite class in the game, so it's going to get a little GleeCon brownie point from little Glee Poo because I love them. Other than that, other than the stealth and the sprint, and sure, evasion, but as we're seeing, evasion is crap. Maybe it gets better, but for now it's crap. It's bad. There's no utility, really. There is no great sustainability. There's no healing. You're not tough. You're not tanky. It is a chore and a slog. The only thing that helps you with it is the stealth. So they're not designed at all for what we're doing right now, which is tackling levels long before they should. Tackling them solo outside of a party.
Not enough energy.
It's just a bad cinch. Come on, girl. What are you doing? Like he had evasion on. I mean, that's all we need to say about the rogue. There's not really a lot to be said. It's a very minimalistic class. Yeah, by the way, we have just hit the quarter mark. We're a quarter of the way to 30. And, you know, I appreciate you guys sitting here with me because, like I said, this is going to be a long slog that I immediately have to repeat with Farinel. So, leveling to 30 off camera, I'll do it in small chunks. But the fact that we're going to get one big fatty chunk taken out of the way with you guys here, that's going to help it's going to help the grind. It'll help my sanity. Okay, so the other leather-only class is the Druid. Alright, so let's think about what are the pros and cons of the Druid. Well, the Druid... Okay, first of all, pros, the Druid can heal. And that's the biggest pro in the game, the ability to heal. Truly is. The ability to heal is the single biggest boon in the game. 2, they are one of the only classes, I'd say it's them and Paladin, are the only 2 classes that can truly, without question, complete all 3 roles very well. They can tank, they can heal, and they can DPS. There's nothing else. And they're better tanks than Paladins are. They are comparable healers to how Paladins are. And if you go Feral, they're better DPS than Paladins are. Now, they can't as effortlessly... I mean, I don't know, that's arguable too. So, they have the same versatility of a Paladin, and Shamans to a lesser extent, because remember, Shamans are not really tanks, but they're so borderline. So they are the poster child for this. They are the best example in the game of being able to do whatever you want. Okay, so I'm trying to dance around between these tigers that are spawning all around me. Alright, so as a healer, they're fine, they're solid. In retail, they're quite good. In my opinion, they're a different kind of style of heal in retail, but in classic, It's not really different. Like, they're not quite as good. But they're more than capable if you spec, and they're fine if you don't. The DPS, they're like a rogue. They have slightly less DPS options than a rogue, but really very minimal. Like, I don't think they have advantage quite as good. Their combo point system's a little bit different, but like they don't have as many stuns and interrupts. But that's really more of a factor in PvP. And they more than make up for it with all the other debuffs and self buffs. They have arguably, in my opinion, the best buffs in the game between Thorns and Mark of the Wilds for soloing. Mark of the Wild gives you increased stats and armor, and Thorns makes the enemies take constant damage from attacking you, which is going to happen all the time when you're soloing PvE. What else? They are good at tanking as well. They're basically like warrior tanks, but just a little bit weaker. Yeah, and they're basically like rogues, but just a little bit less good. Now, if you want to go balance or whatever and be like a DPS outside, that's a whole other thing. I don't suggest it. That's a boring path to take. I've done it. I don't like it. You can do it, and I'm sure people like it. But I actually absolutely despise especially in retail when you're going like the moon to sun dancing. I hate it. I just don't like it. It's so boring. Honestly, in retail, I find druids kind of boring. I find them actually kind of boring overall. But that's not what this is assessing. This is not a GleeCon's favorite class thing. This is how good are they for questing. Since we are essentially halfway through the game, I feel like we're qualified to make these kind of assessments. Now, I would say they're not very tough, but they can. Oh, I didn't forget that. But they can be a bear form, so they can be as tough as they want to be. Any other utility? Well, just the utility of being able to do all of those things. They also have a swimming form. Oh yeah, shamans, I forgot before, have underwater breath and water walking. So that's just another couple utilities in addition to their astral recall. So they have an aquatic form, they have a travel form. Those are also super duper useful. Hey, I'm running out of poison. I'm gonna run out of poison probably before I'm done leveling. Now, here's one other factor of the druid that has to be taken into consideration. And this is a game changer. When they switch to their different forms, they are not reliant upon mana. So unless you stick in balance form and you're going to spam Wrath all the times, Wrath and Moonfire, and that's it. That's how you're going to stay and fight with your staff and fight in Wrath and Moonpower for whatever reason if you decide to go that route. You have to disregard what I'm saying. And if not, all of your DPS and fights are taking place while your mana is regenerating, which gives you the ability to reapply buffs. Oh, bro, I just lost my life. To reapply buffs, to heal. I wonder if there's a reagent vendor in Booty Bay. Does she have her website? It does. So she'll have to go back there. Which is whatever. It's not a big deal, but I'll do that off camera. We shouldn't run out. I'm out of poisons now, but we only have around 10-ish more minutes of this. We are 10, 20, we're a third of the way through the level. So that gives you, it's probably going to take close to 3 hours to do the level up. Close to 3 hours. Alright, so that means that the resource regeneration that allows for constant playtime, like there's almost no downtime for a druid or solo. And that's just dope. That is probably the best, second to healing. Just a great factor that puts you, it's second to healing. All right, so now we're going to move on to the clothies to finish out the shebang here. So we'll start with my least favorite of the clothies, which is priests. All right, so what does priests have? Well, do they have healing? Yes, they do. So they have that great benefit of being able to heal. They also are one of the few classes that have the bubble. That's a very good, like I said before, that's a very underrated ability to allow you to pull off heals, and theirs is the best bubble in the game. They can one spec and do some okay DPS. Their main flaw is these clothies. Their main flaw is that they're not durable. So you can get yourself very quickly into a situation where you're burning through all your mana trying to keep yourself alive with heals, and then you have, which is fine. A lot of the times you can survive with all that, but then you'll be tapped because of the spirit and the heavy focus on healing. They're actually not terrible, and some of the talents you can pick on the mana regeneration, so they're not as thirsty as some of the other classes. But their DPS is also, I almost consider like Shadow Priest almost like a meme spec. Like their DPS to me is subpar, but their buffs are good. They have some good defensive buffs, and they have the stam buff is, probably the best buff in the game. Just an essential one. So as a solo, they're solid. Honestly, they're solid because of their great healing skills and their bubble and their good buffs. And the one spec is, don't sleep on the one spec. It's really useful. It helps them keep a sustainable amount of DPS going while they can still bubble and shield and heal. Alright, and then there's the Warlock. Okay, so Warlocks are kind of a very interesting class. So, like the Hunter, they have a pet that can tank. They're tanking. I would say Voidwalker is actually a pinch better at tanking than regular pets are, and there's no maintenance. You have to buy the books to train them the powers, but that's much less of a hassle than... It just makes them expensive to level, basically. They do have some solid utility. As far they probably have the single most useful party utility feature in the game, which is the ability to summon. It's fantastically useful both within and outside of dungeons, and it would really help entice people to your looking for group if you can add a summons to the advertisement. The ability to soulstone yourself when you're soloing or others is extremely useful. The ability to create health stones for yourself and your party is extremely useful. The different types of pets, when you're in a dungeon, being able to have a imp provide a buff that's, respectable for stamina, or the ability to use the Voidwalker as a tank, or the ability to use either the Fellhound or more importantly, the Succubus or Incubus as part of a demonic sacrifice build to really increase your DPS. Those are good. Those are really great ways to self-buff. They actually are one of the 3 classes that can bubble. And their bubble is, in some ways, the best bubble with the Voidwalker, because if you have the shards to do it, the bubble will outlast the time needed to summon another Voidwalker, so you can almost infinitely bubble as needed, and then just tick off a few dots. Now your mana will run out first, but if you have the life needed, you can kind of just keep doing what you need to do. So they have some solid. They also have underwater breathing. Don't sleep on that. So it's some pretty, really good utility, actually. Not just good, really good utility. Now, the ability to heal is not non-existent, because they can heal both their pets, like the Hunter can, but they can also heal themselves via the Siphon Life, if you spec in that, and Drain Life. Plus, like I said, the Hellstone and the Soulstone to allow for a self-res. They're the only class... No, not the only class, because Rebirth with the Shaman, I think, also have that self-res feature. Theirs is probably better, especially if you spec in it, because it doesn't... Actually, I think it does require a reagent. It requires an Ankh. So it's about the same. And I don't know if the cooldown's 30 minutes. Might be worse, but if you spec into it... Oh, man. And after that, their DPS is respectable. They have good crowd DPS. Oh, I used a stupid armor thing. They have good crowd DPS. They have good single target DPS. They can be spec'd to have some really solid DPS. Now, they are individually squishy, but that's really mitigated by the fact that they have the pets. So, of the 3 squishies, they're the least squishy because of that. So overall, they're pretty solid. They can still use the wands. They can... Yeah, so they can really get... And they can very quickly rejuvenate their mana with some of their traits, too. So, they're, again, not as thirsty as most of the other mana casting classes, which really helps. Alright, and that will bring us home to the mage. Now, mage, so what does the mage do well? They're right up there in the conversation for best DPS in the game. Between Ice Block and Freeze, between Ice Block and Blink, they have good mobility to escape battle. Their intelligence buff is one of the top most essential buffs in the game. Their ability to solo with the Frost build is quite good, especially if you decide to spec in the ability to maximize that as a solo build. Nobody can handle groups of mobs better than the mage, which is what makes them obnoxious in chat, because they're always selling carries. But when you're on the right side of that equation, it's helpful. And all of their thirstiness is completely mitigated by an infinite supply of free food and water, which gives them an incredibly low downtime. I would say probably the second best downtime behind the druids in the game. It's just so good because they can relentlessly eat and drink after every battle if you want. No worries. Downside being, and then the portals are also, portals and teleport are one of the best combos in the game. Usefulness, definitely better than Astral Recall or anything like that. They're super useful, and you can make money doing it. Weakness, of course, being they're probably the squishiest class in the game. So if you aren't playing well, or you make some mistakes, you're screwed. If you have no links or frost or whatever, you get yourself in a bad stitch, you get stunned or interrupted.
Not enough energy.
They are they're bad.
I do not have.
So that's still, I mean, if your biggest flaw is that you're squishy, well, okay. So let's put this up here. So if you're going to be in the top half. Now we're going to rank them. Now that we discussed them, you're in the top half if you can heal. Just boom. So the classes that have a true heal are the paladin, the priest, the shaman, and the druid. And the classes that have a sort of kind of meta heal because of the nature of their pets is the warlock and the hunter. The ones that are left out in the cold are the warrior, the rogue, and did I miss shaman? Shaman, priest, for healers, shaman, priest, paladin, druid, shaman, priest, paladin, druid. No, that's good. And then the meta, and then so the three that can't heal at all are rogue, warrior, and mage. Okay. So of those 4 that can heal, the paladin, the shaman, the priest. So we're really ranking those. Do any of those fall into the S rank? Well, now you have to next look at what's the downtime, because that's for solo play. That's the next most important thing. How terrible is my downtime? So paladin's downtime can be significant.
Not enough energy.
Priest downtime could be a little. I'd say it's probably a little better than the paladins. And then the druid downtime is negligible, and the shaman downtime is as bad. It's as bad as the paladins. Okay, so that means that takes druid and puts them in a class by themselves. I would say the only S class solo leveling experience is druid. They're not my favorite class. Oh, my main dagger poison wore off, so I need to stop killing them.
I am out of range.
So
I do not have enough.
Or if I'm just killing these, I might actually just skip the poisons. For myself, I don't know. Alright, so that puts druids as the winner of this exercise. They're not my favorite class, but they are just so delightful between all of the roles, the self-healing, and I've really been sold since I'm doing what we're doing here, but I'm doing the much more concise, more well-oiled machine of a project, which is what we're going to do when we hit Wrath Classic. One of my 2 I'm doing is a druid. The druid is delightful. Okay, so then now that takes us to priest, paladin, and shaman. So they are comparable. The priest probably wins in terms of downtime. But then we have to look to the paladin wins in terms of toughness by a landslide. The paladin and shaman also have the added bonus of being able to complete all specs, DPS, tank, and healing. So that is actually super useful and speaks to what you can handle. So paladins and shamans can actually probably handle more than the priests because of that. So that actually becomes a more important thing. So that boosts them up. So I would say my 2A class, and they're right there side by side, are paladin and shaman. Now the shaman has a lot more. They have the ghost wolf form, they have the astral recall, they have the totems that increase their ability to solo encounters. The paladins have better toughness.
Is not ready yet.
better tanking. You could argue better healing. And they have bubbles. So then it really probably comes down to preference. And I prefer the shaman more. I just think a shaman can pull off a little bit more than a paladin can. So if I really had a gun to my head, I'd pick shaman more. And actually, shaman's probably, as much as rogue is my favorite class, the class I actually enjoy playing the most is shaman. In retail, that's tied with Demon Hunter. I actually really like Demon Hunter's really fun to play. So I'm going to give Shaman the edge in terms of me ranking them, but really, for all intents and purposes, it depends on my day. Shaman and Paladin are side by side as the A class. Okay, so that means, unfortunately for me, Priest is leading the way right now in terms of B class. So then we go over to the hybrid classes. We go to the Hunter and the Warlock. Well, they can both kind of heal, and they can both kind of tank. So that brings them up in this B class rank, and of the three of them, all of the utility options of the Warlock pushes Warlock to the front of that group. So I'm going to give Warlock 4th place for now as a B class. And then Priest and Hunter are kind of side by side for me. Depends on my day. The bubbling and the better healing, but then the pets. I guess if I had to pick, I would... Originally, I probably would have picked Hunter over Healer, over Priest. But the Priest can do 2 rolls, the Hunter can only do 1. Priest can bubble, Hunter can't. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough sell. The DPS of the Hunter is way better. I'm torn. Again, I originally would have picked Hunter all day, but now the Priest is kind of growing on me, and Hunter's dropping for me. Now, we got to throw Mage into this conversation because of the low downtime for food that actually shoots Mage to the top. The squishiness and the lack of survivability is offset by that. And so Mage is right into this B conversation too. So I would say their unique ability for soloing, grinding with the Blizzard, pushes them out ahead. So I would actually put Mage in the head of the Bs. So S class we have Druid, A class we have Shaman and Paladin, and B class I would go Mage, Warlock, Priest, and Hunter. Now that brings us, let's see, that's 3, that's 7. That only leaves 2 to be the bottom of the barrel. And that's Warrior and Rogue. And they are slung to the bottom because they have little to no utility. And they have no sustainability. Downtime is high. They're sucked to solo with. Between the two, though, I would give Warrior C class almost higher because it is so good. Like I said before, when you are the best at what you do, it really helps sell your cause. Look at my gold. That's actually really good. I gained almost 3 gold from that. And they're so tough. And that puts last place, I would say D class for soloing is the Rogue. And that is a wrap. So we are halfway through the level. Thank you for sitting with me as I grinded through half a level. If you disagree, just hit me up in the comments and argue. I'm easily swayed. We'll start Maleficent in a couple days. And that'll be fun. That'll be a whole different experience. And we'll be back to leveling in zones that we should be leveling in. And we'll get to do her for a while off camera. We take these segments, a level and a half if you combine Farinel in there, and we get them caught up to 30. And who knows, Millicent might have some, not Maleficent. She might have some stuff too. She might have some grind time, because my goal is to get them all to 30 and then start my dungeon run. Thank you, everybody, so much. So much, as always. You guys rock. My companions through this journey in the world and through the lore of Warcraft. I'll see you guys next time.